Hey everyone, it's World Film Geek here, and I interviewed Tara Johnson-Medinger, an actress and producer. She makes her directorial debut on the coming-of-age film My Summer as a Goth, coming November 11th from 123 Go Films. Enjoy the interview.
We good?
Yes, I actually, I
Awesome.
I literally just watched My Summer as a Goth like just a little while ago, and I really liked it. It was a really good movie, and I liked the ending, especially how it came out.
Thank you. That's awesome. So
So
you're fresh from watching it. That's cool.
yeah. So my first question is, inspired you to take on the project as a writer and director?
Sure. So back in 2009, my co-writer, Brandon Lee Roberts, presented me with the first version of the script, and it was something that I just loved. I loved the story. I loved that it was something that was near and dear to our hearts. We're best friends from high school, so we've known each other for a very long time. We came of age in the 80s when a lot of like John Hughes era kind of coming of age films were pretty big, and we were excited about doing a project together and honoring the coming of age time of our life, but like making it fresh for today and setting it in present day. So that was like the first thing that I was super attracted to the story. It was funny. It had a lot of heart, and I just saw the potential in it. And I fell in love with the characters. And over the years, we continued to develop the script together. I became a co-writer, and it was something that just felt very personal in a lot of ways.
That's awesome. Well, I gotta say,
Yeah.
Natalie Shershow and Jack Levis really drove this movie, and I gotta admit, I felt like Victor's character was a little off color at times, like the way he acted, but I could see that he did help change Joey's life in some aspect, and
Mhm.
and so what was it like working with those two?
Oh, I adore both of them tremendously. We had the fortunate kind of a situation that happened where we met Natalie in an acting class that she was in. Brandon and I were feeling really ready with the script, and we wanted to hear it read by a bunch of teenagers. So I have a friend that runs an acting studio here for teens. I asked her if we could come in and read it, and that was an awesome experience. So we just like tossed all the characters around the room. We got their feedback as teenagers on the story, and then we did a mock audition, what we thought was a mock audition for them the next week. And Natalie came in. I was pressed a little bit by my friend Katie, who runs the studio. She was like, there's one person here that really identifies with the story. She just is super excited about it, and I'm not going to tell you who it is, but
Hmm.
I think you're going to be blown away by her audition. And Natalie came in, and we worked through all the kids. They auditioned for various parts in the film, and when she came in and she read the part of Joey, Brandon and I were just like completely stunned. I mean, we were taking notes kind of like on a sheet of paper that I had, and he wrote on the sheet of paper, he was like, "What the F just happened?" and it was like, I've told the story a lot, like, it's that experience of like your character just kind of leaps off the page and is like in the room with you, and it was weird and wild and amazing. Like, it was so cool. And within, I think, a week or two, we asked Natalie to be a part of the project. And so we had this opportunity to work with her for about 6 months prior to even doing any auditions with everybody else. We had a few actors that we knew that we were interested in, but we didn't get everything ready and rolling to, start production.
Hmm.
And do a true casting, and that's when we found Jack. And when you're casting, you do an open casting call here in Portland. I also went out to all the talent agents and sent out the breakdowns, and you look at headshots and say, maybe this person, maybe that person. And initially, Jack came in to read for a different character, and there was something about him that didn't quite fit for that character. But he was leaving, and I tracked him down in the hallway, and I said, "Listen, would you be interested in reading for this character, Victor?" And he came back in and auditioned, and then Natalie wasn't there that day, so we asked him to come back and read with her. And so once we put them together in the room and saw how they worked with each other and like their chemistry, like it felt really right. And it was challenging because Jack is he physically does not look like Victor at all. Like he is blonde and is not alternative at all. He's not a goth. Like he is, you would not recognize him outside of makeup. And so it was visually, it was challenging to say, okay, can this person pull off this character that we're sort of envisioning? And he really did. I mean, he just like dove head first into it, and it was incredible. It was incredible working with both of them. They just did a tremendous job. They became good friends while we were shooting. All the kids that were part of the film became really close during that time, and we all are still close now. Now that they're all like young adults and off doing their own thing, and but we have like a little texting group that we all text with each other frequently now, a lot because the movie's coming out. But so it's it was so good to work with both of them.
I will say one of the funniest parts, and this was very brief, that as soon as I saw it, I almost fell out of my chair, was when the grandfather comes out in the morning and he's just wearing nothing but an apron. And
right.
I nearly lost my mind. Was that actually written in the script, or was that something that was improvised?
Oh, it was written, yeah, for sure. And Jonas, who plays Joseph, or Papa, as Joey calls him, Papa, and the grandfather character, he was like so ready to do that scene. He was like basically walking around in that costume on set, and I was like, Jonas, you need to sit in this one room. You can't be just walking around set just in your apron. So he was super excited and just went for it. And it was like their normal life, right? Mm-hmm. Joey was inserted into into her grandparents' life, and they're just doing their thing. And one thing that Joseph does is makes pancakes with just an apron on.
That's awesome. So how long did shooting take, and were there any difficulties that you faced during production?
Oh, so many. We could talk for hours about that, but I won't bore you with all those stories. But, I think every indie film has those stories, right? Production's challenging. Yeah. There's never enough money or time or people, and, it's all the things that you hear about that we face. We started rolling camera in 2016, the summer 2016, and we shot about a week of production, and we had to shut down because we're going to run out of money. And that's the big thing in indie production. It was like we kind of saw like, oh, wait a minute, this thing is not, we're not going to be able to complete it, and we're going to exhaust everyone. We're not going to get what we want, and it was a time to step back and reset. And that's what I did. And it was absolutely one of the hardest things I ever had to do was, to call that, like, we've got to shut down. Because at that point, it was, can we get this back up? And I really took time to go through everything, evaluate, take the footage that we had, edit it down, ask friends and, peers working in the industry, like, is this worth pursuing? Like, do I have something here? And every time it was like, absolutely, keep going. You need to do this. And so I was very transparent with that process, and it was super heartbreaking. But I took the next year to raise more money to get it really set up the way it needed to be set up for a healthy set of production, and thankfully was able to get back every single actor. I mean, that was amazing.
I call that
like
totally lucky.
What's that? What's that?
That was totally lucky.
Yeah, oh yeah, so lucky. And it was, I was just very open with the communication, where we were, things that needed to happen, and the majority of the crew came back too. So that was also a huge boon to us. So I was able to, almost a year later, 2017, get it back into production for 2 more weeks, and we shot the rest of the movie.
Oh, wow.
And so, as I'm sure with filmmaking, things aren't shot chronologically. So there is 2 years worth of filming that are edited together into this movie, and it's pretty seamless. Like, I was very detailed in my notes, and it's something like, I will never share which scenes were filmed in which time frame, and there's many scenes that are edited together that were filmed in 2 different years, and it was a huge feat in terms of continuity, and also working with the actors too. Like, they had a year of being away from these characters, so that was something that I gave us some more, beefed up our rehearsal time with them before we went into production the second time around, because I wanted to make sure that we were meeting those characters where they were, even though the actors had a whole year of life experience, right? And so that's something that I was really grateful for, because sometimes you don't get the rehearsal time that you really need with your actors, and they were into it, and so that second time around, we were able to get a huge amount, 5 times the amount of footage that we were able to do in the first year. And then, after we wrapped, once you get into your edit, you realize that there's times you have to kind of figure out your pickups, right? So we did a couple of days of pickups. One was, a good chunk of the cast, and then we also brought Natalie back in several times to do what's called insert shots and close-ups and things like that we were finding we needed, and that's very normal, for any kind of production to do. And so post-production took about a year after we finished production, so that takes a lot longer than your production schedule.
Right. So that way you get everything perfectly the way you want it to. That's exactly.
Yeah. I mean, I loved post-production. I thought it was amazing. I mean, there's many different levels of making a movie. A lot of people focus on that production part because it is you've got crew and cast, and there's a huge amount of energy and everything that surrounds it. And, it's beautiful and crazy making and exhausting, and it's all the things, right? And,
right.
But there's all this other stuff that goes into making a movie, where you get into post-production, you're working with an editor, you have a colorist, you have a sound designer, you're working with a composer, and, for us, it was music was very important to this film, and so our music supervisor is Jana Cushman, and they're actually the front person for Dark Swoon, and that's the band that plays in Club Medusa in the film. So they were a huge part of. They did the score, and then they also connected us with this wider network of musicians that essentially lent their songs to making the soundtrack happen.
That's awesome. And I will say this.
Yeah.
I feel like in indie cinema, someone's always going to have that breakout role, the one that's going to make them.
Right.
And I think for Natalie, this is going to be that movie. I totally feel that this is going to be her breakout.
Yeah.
Because
she held this movie. And, and like I said, she was young when she did it. She was 16. I mean, she's been acting since she was little. And she's been in some larger things like Leverage and American Vandal. And, she's done some, kind of bigger budget projects, maybe lesser roles, not the lead, but, it gave her the training ground to move into this. But she really, she had a lot of work on her for this movie. Holding a whole movie is a lot of work on an actor, and she did a great job.
That's awesome. So finally, with film and TV production slowly on the rise, on the comeback after everything we've been through this year, are there any new projects in the works that you can talk about?
Yeah, I actually have a few things happening. I work as a producer as well. My Summer as a Goth is my directorial debut, but I have a healthy career as a producer on feature narratives and documentaries, as well as short projects. So I have a project that I'm working with a local director here on a feature that we'll be shooting ideally next summer, depending on, how everything goes in our world. We shot a proof of concept about a month ago, which was a lot of fun to get back into production. And I am also prepping a documentary that I will be directing. I'm doing it in the research phase for that, and hopefully we'll be able to start that either towards the end of the year or early next year. We'll start our production run on that. And then I'm also writing a new feature film that I will be directing, and it's something that I've been working on it for a long time, at least the idea, but within the sort of pandemic COVID time, I've had the opportunity to really flesh out the story more and, have a good outline and some scenes written, and that's been a lot of fun to kind of develop a whole new world and see where that goes. It's a coming of age story, but more in that like mid-20s age of one's life. So that will be hopefully my next narrative feature that I'm able to direct. And it all comes down to financing and when you can get those things off the ground. So my goal is within the next year to be moving forward on that.
Awesome, and I hope it doesn't happen. Like you don't go through the same problems like 1 week and then you have to shut down. I hope this one goes a little more smoother.
I feel like I've learned a lot to not go through that again, and as a producer too, on other projects that I work on, it's especially with independent filmmakers that maybe haven't gone through a full process of delivering a feature. I've got some pretty hefty experience to lend to new projects and to be okay, we need to be aware of this or that, or just kind of pointing out potential roadblocks for the project. And I think that this next project for me, that it'll just be set up differently. I still would want to continue to kind of work in the indie realm. I do appreciate the story-driven art that comes out of the independent world, and but it is a business, right?
Yep.
And so ideally would be working with a little more substantial budget to pull off the project. But I've already identified some actors that I would love to work with on this next project, and have been talking with them about that. And so we'll see what happens. But I always keep myself busy with lots of creative projects and other things that I do.
All right, awesome. So my Summer as a Goth is coming out on November 11th, and this is an amazing coming of age story, and it's totally driven by Natalie Shosho's excellent performance. I think this is going to be her breakout. And Tara, thanks again for taking the time to talk about the movie.
Absolutely. Thank you, Albert.
All right, you take care.
You have a good day.
You too. All right, bye-bye.
Okay. Bye.